How far would you go to rescue the man you love? Karissa Knight explores this question in Book 3 of the Mina's Choice series. Welcome to Blackbird Writers Presents Author Interviews. I'm Sharon Lynn, and welcome to you, Karissa, also known as Tracy.
Hi, how's it going? It feels so weird not being the person to introduce the video.
It felt really weird for me not to press all the buttons that I usually press, because you press them this time.
Yeah, so thank you so much for doing this.
Well, it is just always lovely to talk to you, and I really enjoy this series, and so this will be fun.
Yeah, and it's a great opportunity for me to sit in your hot seat.
Those probing questions that I have.
You do, you have great questions.
Thanks. Well, let's just jump into them then. The Cliff Diver is book 3 in the Mina's Choice series. Did you always, and they have beautiful covers, did you always plan for it to be a 3-book arc?
I did. I knew when I wrote the first one that it was going to be a 3 trilogy. And I knew, how I wanted it to end up. And I knew the tension that I wanted to create between the two characters. I didn't really know, what the suspense part of each story was going to be right away, but I did know the character and the relationship arc for the whole series.
And yeah, we don't want to give anything away, but it has a very satisfying ending.
I'm so glad.
We've talked about this before, but for our fans that are new to Karissa, what is tombstoning, and what is the significance both of it and also the tattoo that she's getting in the opening scene?
Well, so Wilhelmina Green is a tombstoner, and so this is not something that I recommend anybody does in their free time. She likes to dive from high cliffs into deep water, being the key, deep water. But she was trained as a diver from early on. She did competitive diving all through high school and had a scholarship to Northwestern University, but she was in their diving team as well as that's where she went to law school. So, she was a competitive diver and she loved that, free fall. And later on in her life, she started exploring, diving in natural places, where there's cliffs and water and things like that. So she, the opening of book 1, I think she's in or near Acapulco diving from a cliff, and she likes that feeling. It's sort of her atonement. She likes to do it secretly. She doesn't tell anybody she's going to do it, but she hopes that her muscle memory and all of those things kick in as she's in free fall, which luckily they do. And yeah.
Otherwise it would have been a very short series.
It was, yeah, been over after the first scene. But no, she does it in a way to find atonement. There's a moment for her that that is unlike anything else, and she's very angsty about what she's doing with her career. She's in a situation where she's defending criminals and helping them to be acquitted. Of course, she's making bank, but but the other side of that is that she feels bad for helping these people be released back into the world. And since she was a very young lawyer hired by a prestigious firm, she didn't feel like she had any say in who she was able to represent in that, which changes throughout the arc. So yay for Mina.
Absolutely. Yeah. We like it when she's like, you know what? Not doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, go, Mina. So, book two kind of ends with Jonathan going off on a quest of vengeance. And so book three opens with Mina, like, he's missing. He's missing. I must go find him.
Oh,
So
right.
they're apart, and these books are erotic suspense. And so for our fans who are used to these really steamy sex scenes of them together, how are you handling those kinds of scenes?
Um, so, you know, I handled it mostly as flashbacks. And, you know, in this book, I decided it was really important also to have Jonathan's voice. So he gets a point of view in this book where he didn't have a point of view in the other two books, because I thought it increased the tension and the suspense and the tension between the two of them.
Mhm.
But, you know, once they decided to, you know, be a couple, and Mina truly fell for him, you know, realized all the, you know, the good that he brought into her life, um, then I felt like that part of that suspense wasn't, you know, working for the books anymore. Anyway, I wanted him to have a voice, so he does. And wait, what was the question?
Um, his his flashbacks. So we get to see those scenes
From both of
that
their points
kind
of
of,
view.
yeah, kind of, I think at least one of them is the same scene, and we saw it from her perspective, and then this time we get to see it from his.
Yeah,
Uh and and yeah, and which is kind of fun because he falls for her way before she falls for him.
right. Exactly. You asked me about tattoos earlier,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah, she's
and
getting a tattoo in the very opening scene.
yep, and it's a tattoo of the rosemary bushes and of a waterfall, and it's sort of a combination um, of things for her. It represents her tombstoning, and it's on her, like on her way up on her hip and kind of coming down her leg. So it's rosemary bushes and flowers with the purple flowers, because she walked through wild rosemary once to dive off a cliff in Croatia. And then the waterfall represented the Wollongong um, dive. So there's fun dive scenes, I think, in all of the books, you
Yeah.
know, if you like that kind of thing. And then you can virtually or you know, be an armchair tombstoner. The best
Which
way.
is really the only way you should be.
Yes.
Absolutely with that. Well, and that kind of leads me back to, you've given Jonathan acrophobia, this terrifying, what he calls a bear of a fear of heights. And just completely opposite of Mina's fearlessness in that realm. So why pick that?
Well, it seems sort of like a perfect fit for a lot of reasons. You know, and as I was writing the book, I knew how things were going to play out.
Mhm.
And, you know, and I thought it also gave him something to really admire her for, because he didn't have that. He was terrified of heights, you know, and every time he, you know, looking out of a window, he's a little like, you know, but like if you've read the early books, he has a high rise in Chicago with, you know, big windows, and he frequently would stand at the window. And, you know, for him, it was a test to see, you know, if he could get over it or not. Usually not.
Usually not. And then, of course, that just adds a whole lot to the tension of where he's being held and all of that. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that makes it very exciting. It's
Yeah.
like,
And
you
and
are.
and we can talk about that too, because I loved researching the islands in Greece. So he ends up going after his nemesis, Rory Bradford, who we learn a lot about in book two. And so we discovered that, and he knew this, but Mina didn't. Mina discovers that Rory is the daughter of a transnational crime leader, a Russian crime boss.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so Jonathan goes after her for two reasons. He wants to stop her from, she's making fentanyl and selling it all over the world. Um, and she's also got a major vendetta towards Jonathan. She wanted him back, but she can't have him, you know, and she doesn't take anything like that
And she's
lightly.
and she's just a little spoiled and used to getting what she wants in a mob boss daughter's way.
Yes, exactly. And she'll do whatever it takes to get it. So she does. She takes Jonathan back. Mina's not having any of that. But it was really fun researching islands in Greece because there's like 1,000 islands in the Aegean.
I didn't realize that. And there's a point where they're discussing where he is, Mina and various cohorts, and they're like, that's not a real name, must be a private island. And it's just like, really?
Yeah, well, like I'm sure, you've done research like that where you're looking through Google Earth, right? And you want to get and it's all like pixelated and blocked out and you can't see that section of the screen at all. Like, well, there was islands like that in the Aegean as well. And I'm like, somebody's paying Google to hide their stuff, right? And I mean, sometimes I think it's military bases and that, but I think there are other private people that do that, which I'm like, oh, writer brain is going crazy now.
This is perfect. This is perfect. Yeah, the setting in the Aegean, which kind of leads me to the next part is Mina's there, and Rory also has a vendetta against Mina, and so she's kind of being hunted. She like will be on the phone, and then all of a sudden a drone. She'll hear a drone. And so I was really interested to hear about your research on the technologies that Rory was employing.
Um, yeah, she's pretty insidious. So yeah, I get to look up all kinds of like cool stuff about like weaponized drones and things like that, and kind of scary stuff that I mean most of us in our Midwestern life or West Coast life don't normally like see, but I'm sure a lot of people have been out on a sunny day and you hear that and it's like, where is that thing? And is it taking pictures or what? Who's anyway. I don't like it. And Mina didn't either. But I also looked up a lot of stuff about yachts for one, because there's a lot of, I mean, they're traveling by yacht
Mhm.
throughout between the islands. She meets up with some people who have a very nice oyster yacht, and his girl Michael Betancourt, right? Michael Betancourt has and his girlfriend Amelia she has the technology skills. So she has all the things like she can like block any radio signals. She can so that like drones can't find them, or their phones can't be picked up on by satellite. She has like all of the skills, which works out perfectly for Mina too.
Yeah. Oh, and they're just a lovely couple. The two of them. They have this little kind of a they occasionally will bicker, but they so clearly have just such a great respect for one another and the other's skills. And so why wait until book 3 for these guys? Would have been fun to meet them earlier.
Yeah, I just because I couldn't have Mina and Jonathan be together, I wanted to play around a lot with that, with the couple dynamics, you know, in person, you know,
Yeah.
because Mina is searching for Jonathan for like the whole book, like you
Right.
said. And but I think Michael and Amelia have a great relationship. And she yells and screams like any, you know, Grecian or Italian woman, you know, she gets very angry and up in his face, and he just loves her for that. You know?
Yeah, they are very, very fun. And of course, you couldn't have them earlier because they live on a boat in the Aegean Sea, and that's
Right,
not Chicago.
right. Yeah. And he was friends with Jonathan from before. So Jonathan knows everybody. He's just one of those guys that gets around and meets people. And so he knew Michael from before, and he helped him out. I think he helped him get a job. He was working, I'm not going to remember.
Once you finish one book, you purge that and you move on to your next.
Right. I know. I forgot to do my research. But he was ex Black Ops, and then he was working to protect the fictional Princess of Monaco's sister. So, and then they got married and divorced. So he came into a lot of money. And so that's why he has a
That's the
boat.
yacht.
That's
Yeah.
the yacht. Yes. Which is a very nice yacht. Look up oyster yachts. Boy, I'd like to put that in the chat. They're beautiful.
So yeah, and you had a sailing catamaran.
Yeah.
Were they all sailboats? Or were some
No, because I also did research about the you know, you hear about the Russian nationals having these super yachts that they're
yeah.
floating around with, and you know, and I was just, that kind of triggered some, you know, creativity too. Who else is on these super yachts? And maybe Rory's family members are
Mhm.
cruising around on these, you know, and you know, with their militia, with their guerrillas, you know, keeping people away.
Yeah, there's I'm in San Diego a lot in the Bay, and there's this one super yacht that has a helicopter pad and a helicopter on it, and it's like, what? Um, it's
Right?
like just a privately owned and has a helicopter pad. So yeah, you can't help but think that maybe there's mob money rolling around that yacht.
Yeah, I know, exactly. So,
Lots of things you can do in international waters.
yes.
Um, so we've been jumping around with our questions, and now I don't know where we are. Um, so let's go back to the Russian mobsters, if we could, because I do find that that in my mind, that's just kind of what Chicago is, because, that's when you're not from the Midwest, it's just all you hear.
Yeah.
It's mob families. It's like, okay. And so that Rory and her family, even though Russian, kind of have a big foothold in uh Chicago, and now they're like just bought an island so they could do drug production in Greece. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Okay. Yeah, in book two, Mina takes on a client who was charged with laundering. And I mean, that wasn't the only charges that he had. And so, you know, and as a defense attorney, she's, you know, her job was to try and get him off. But she quickly found too that he had connections to the Chicago, well, not necessarily Chicago crime, but criminals, but to transnational criminal organizations. And And so, you know, I mean, my research in those fields, you know, it's kind of limited.
Mhm.
I don't have a lot of experience in those areas, and so, you know, I rely on like conferences like KillerCon, and which used to be the police academy, where they talk about things like that and how the police deal with it. So, I mean, that's mostly the kinds of research that I've done. I mean, not to mention researching, you know, how to successfully, you know, launder, you know, money without tracing it and stuff like that, which, yeah, it's really, really hard to do that, you know.
Well, yeah, really, the police academy or KillerCon, that's the best way, interviewing, an FBI agent or a police officer. And we have two two resources right here in the Blackbirds.
Yes, we
Um,
do. Yeah,
Tim and Nick. That's really the safest way to do it, because I mean, you start Googling stuff. I'm afraid bad people would also pick up on your
yeah.
searches. So
Use your incognito mode, and you know, the
yeah,
police are gonna have a field day with my computer no matter what. So
right.
but you
Yeah.
know, that's the kind of research that I did. And so, you know, I just made, you know, connected the dots with Rory and her situation and coming from this family. Um, you know, and I wanted to get them out of Chicago for this book. So that was a lot of fun. And now, I mean, now we have to go. We haven't been yet. We have to go to Greece.
All right, so these books are written under Karissa Knight, because they are a bit of a departure from your psychological thrillers and psychological thriller procedurals. But I mean, I know who you are. And I think probably anybody could find out. Plus, you have the first chapter to Best Kept Secrets in the back of Cliff Divers. So I think everybody sort of knows that Carissa is
Yeah.
Tracy and Tracy is Carissa. So why did you choose to write under the pseudonym?
Yeah. You know, it was a pretty obvious choice for me. First of all, I teach piano lessons to mostly children, and I kind of wanted it to be, because I knew that this kind of content isn't something I'd ever want, you know, kids to find online. So, you know, I tried to make it a little bit more difficult to figure that out, make that connection.
Mhm.
So, and the other thing is, it's really is not psychological thriller. You know, it's a completely different, you know, genre. And they are spicy, quite spicy. So, yeah, which is not something you would ever read in a regular, you know, psychological thriller. So,
Mhm.
I really needed to separate the two and keep it, you know. Yeah.
Well, okay, so saying that, is Carissa going to have another series, maybe dealing with a different kind of erotica? Or maybe?
I don't know yet. I mean, you know, and that's always the question. You're just getting ready to launch one book, and everybody wants to know what's coming next.
Leave me alone, my brain's full.
Yeah. Wait a minute. I'm trying to market this one. Yeah. So no, I don't know. I mean, I guess it could be a possibility. I had an editor tell me that there's a very clear opening in the Cliff Diver for a sequel. I don't know if you have an inkling of what that might be, but um, yeah, and so I could continue the characters, and you know, with this book, I had a really good time writing both their points of view, and I could send them on some other mission somewhere, you know, to fight bad guys or whatever. But more than likely, I'll probably um, I don't know, write something else. If I decide to write another Karissa Knight book, it'll
Mhm.
probably be a completely different series.
Okay.
Long answer.
All right. So, And for those of our fans who have not read the Karissa Knight's stories yet, where can they find you?
Only on Amazon.
Okay.
I've, been dipping my toes in that independent publishing thing. And so I've only published them on Amazon. You won't find them in any bookstores. But we frequently do Kindle deals and offer them up for free if you're a Kindle Unlimited subscriber.
Yeah.
So, and I hope you'll find me there. And the Karissa, you can find Karissa Knight, KarissaKnight.com, or if you go to my website, tracysphillips.com, the books are listed in there and you can link to it too.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. And thank you all for watching Blackbird Writers Presents Author Interviews.
Thanks so much, Sharon.
Thank you.